And we are live. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Forest Skills. I'm Ed Stafford. It's Wednesday. We're still in lockdown, and fingers crossed these lessons are proving to be some help in entertaining the kids or keeping them occupied for a half hour or so, or even providing inspiration for when you do go out later in the day, and you've all got something to do and some new ideas. Today we are going to be doing survival hacks. This is my second survival hacks session, and today, if you want to take part in this lesson live, if you want to actually build what I'm building at the same time, you're going to need the following things. You're going to need a ball of string. I've got orange string here, but you don't need orange string, but the only reason I've got orange string is because you can see it better on camera. You're going to need a dustbin liner, dustbin bag, and you're going to need some pebbles. You're only going to need 4 pebbles, but grab 5 or 6, and ideally as round as possible. That is what you need. And then you're going to need either a knife or a pair of scissors. And obviously when we're cutting, we're going to do this under supervision from adult or adult decides. Now, you're not doing the cutting, I'm doing the cutting, but that is obviously at your discretion. While you go and get those things, so you string, pebbles, dustbin liner, pair of scissors. Got all of those things, you can take part in the lesson live. I'm just going to do some shout outs this morning. We've got quite a few people joined. Preacher Bear is on again saying good morning, Ed. Thank you very much. He wants me to say good hello to my wife. She's a massive fan and her name is Colette. Hello Colette, good morning to you. Weight Loss Panda is back. Good morning, Ed. Hi. Hi Panda. Preacher Bear is in Cornwall and it's very rainy. It's rainy here as well. And so today the lesson that we're actually going to be taking part in is making an improvised shelter. So perfect for a day like this. If it's actually raining, use this as an excuse to take the kids outside, because we're going to be able to test it, aren't we? If you make it outside, you'll be able to put it up, you'll be able to get underneath and see that it works, which is, you couldn't ask for more than that from the British weather, could you, on a day like today? Darren and Alison, good morning, guys. Rainy Halifax, good morning, that's Caroline. Sherlock Films saying good morning, Treacle. Morning, darling. Morning, y'all. I think that might be an American. Not hearing any sound yet. That was probably before we came live, mate, I would have thought. Hopefully you're getting sound. Tell me if you're not getting sound. You are getting sound. Good. Morning to Casper and Kate. Hi guys, thank you for tuning in again. George and Thomas watching from Beaconsfield. Hello, both of you. Hi from Latvia. Do I know where Latvia is? Yeah, it's over in the Eastern Europe. I think I drove through Latvia. Yeah, I did drove through Latvia. I think it's the Baltics, isn't it? Might be testing my own geography. I have got a degree in it, but fingers crossed I got that right. Theo from Newark, who hasn't missed a session yet, and making his own bushcraft guide with all the information from his these sessions. Wow, how cool is that? Mate, good luck with your guide. That is fantastic. Adam Edwards, joining from South Wales. Hello, mate. Morning all from rainy Tewkesbury, that's from the Ruddler. Peter Ward from Suffolk watching with Primrose. Hi Primrose, how are you? William, shout out, that's from A Bud. Kay and Mutsumi in Japan. Got people from Japan, Latvia, America, all joining in. So today we're going to be doing survival hacks. I did a session on this last week. I'm going to do this because my legs went dead last time and then I couldn't do anything. I got pins and needles in my legs, so I might look a little bit relaxed here, but I'm just giving my legs a little bit of a rest. Survival hacks are essentially what you do if you don't have everything to hand. So if you've not got a tent, for example, the thing that we're about to do today, making an improvised shelter, might end up being useful, but they go beyond just the physical I suppose the practical thing of just providing you something with something you haven't got. They get you thinking in a manner which I think is really helpful, which is thinking outside the box and being less reliant on man-made tools and the things that you're carrying with you, and they're more reliant on your common sense and your judgment and your ingenuity, which again gets the brain thinking in a really, really nice way and encourages new thought and original ideas. And that, of course, is how we all grow. That's how we develop. That's how we become wiser human beings, more rounded characters. And that's why I think this sort of thing is important. Not necessarily because you might get caught out in a doomsday scenario or a plane crash or anything like that. It's to get the brain thinking outside the box. And it also means that in a world where we're all trying to be sustainable, you don't have to buy new stuff all the time. You can make do with, for example, in this instance, some pebbles, some string, and some dustbin liners, stuff that we all have either lying around the house or outside in terms of in the garden or outside just for pebbles. You know, nobody has to buy pebbles, do they? If anyone's gone on Amazon and bought pebbles for today's lesson, then shame on you. So that's why we're doing it. The first survival, let's go straight into the survival hacks. I suppose you might still be getting those items, especially if you've gone outdoors to get your pebbles. I'm going to talk through duct tape just quickly before we go into the improvised shelter. Now, duct tape is an amazing thing, but it's quite a bulky thing to carry with you when you go outdoors. So quite often what people do is they wrap it around different items. I've seen duct tape wrap around lighters before. Now, if you're going out on really, really small adventures, then maybe, yeah, okay, wrap it around a lighter and you'll only get a small amount. But I would go for something like your water bottle. If you do use, and I'm not sponsored by Nalgene, but if you do use this fat opening bottle, they're really good because you can fill them up really quickly. But I would wrap these around. And you would think, wouldn't you, that once you fill it up in the river, the water is going to start making that come off, but it doesn't. And you can actually wrap a surprisingly big amount onto this without it becoming too bulky. And then obviously when you use it, you just peel it off here. This becomes your roll, okay? So you don't have to carry this into the field, you have to carry this. Now this is a basic survival hack, but it's little things like this that make you more comfortable. I have to make sacrifices in life, and my jacket is about to be the next sacrifice. Like, I'm gonna make a little rip in my jacket, and you go, oh no, that jacket's ruined now, and the innards are coming out. But no, it's not ruined. So duct tape can be used for loads of things, and one of them is repairing material. It is so good that it will actually be better than when you started. Now, you can make sure the material's relatively together. Shall I take this off? Yeah, let's take it off so I can see. So I find my little hole. Where did I make it? Find it there. I'm going to put the patch over, and this is when you start looking like a real seasoned pro outdoors. If you've got duct tape all over all over your clothing, then you're going to look like you know what you're doing. Now, if it's really cold, another little survival hack, you work it all in. Make sure you work all the edges. And if it's really cold, have I got a lighter in here? One bit of preparation I didn't do for today's lesson. If it's really cold and it's not sticking, get a lighter and just run it over the surface of this, and then it will slightly melt the plastic and it will then stick on even better. So that's a nice little survival hack. The other thing you can use duct tape for is your feet. Now, again, anyone who's taught to look after their feet with plasters or zinc oxide tape might start cringing at this, but I maintain that, again, the less things that you take into the field, the better. And so if you can learn to look after your feet with duct tape, then that's also fantastic. Now, for me, duct tape has worked. Well, I walked 2.5 years the length of the Amazon, and this is what I used to prevent blisters. The really nice thing about it is it's super sticky, just as sticky as zinc oxide tape, but it's got a smooth, shiny surface on the outside, which means your socks glide over it, whereas zinc oxide tape has got a rough outer edge, hasn't it, which means that naturally your socks will ruck up against it. So if you've got a little hot spot and you can feel some rubbing, you put some duct tape on and cover it like that. You only do that if it's not puffy. If it's puffy and you can see that the skin's raised, that means that there's going to be that means if you put it on like that, when you take it off, you will rip that skin off, and that is a disaster. So what do you do if you've got a bit of puffy and you would normally need a plaster or a dressing? Well, you've guessed it, I can do this with duct tape as well. Is you rip a little section of the duct tape off that's bigger than your puffy area, and then you make yourself a homemade plaster. Okay, so then you've got shiny side, which is going to be touching the area which is puffy, and then you've got a little plaster which you can then put over the puffy area, and that replaces dressings, it replaces plasters, it replaces zinc oxide tape, and obviously this is something that you can use for repairs and everything as well. So there you go, there's a nice little couple of nice little survival hacks which are super simple, but do you know what? It doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be stuff that takes years and years to learn. On Friday, we're going to be doing the bow drill, and then we're going into sort of techniques, but most people don't need that level of expertise at something like this. Bow drill is quite an advanced bushcraft technique. It's these little things. It's how to use duct tape. It's, for example, it's cold in this house this morning, and so the layer I put on next to my skin is a jumper. It's not a t-shirt, but it's wool, and the reason it's wool is because I wanted wool next to my skin, because I knew I'd be warmer down here in the basement if I'd got wool next to my skin. If you've got cotton next to your skin, especially if it's wet, but if it's cold, it still conducts heat better, which means it's worse. It's great for cooling you down in hot weather, but it's not good for the winter. So if you're going outside, try and make sure you've got wool next to your skin rather than cotton, especially when it's like this. Okay, fingers crossed you have got all of your stuff. Let's do a couple of shout outs and see if there's any questions. Hugo saying good morning from the Netherlands. Hey bud, can't wait for the bow drill. You've only got to wait till Friday, mate. George and Thomas made a den out of a Christmas tree and a silver birch. Guys, that's thinking outside the box. Well done. And it's recycling, which is amazing. Chris Mernon says, hello Chris, not a mountaineer unless your kit is held together with duct tape. I totally agree, mate. Good idea, Ari. Duct tape from Snappy Twigs. Preacher Bear is going wild camping on Dartmoor. Mate, have a good time. Did that with my little boy just before Christmas and absolutely loved it. Still keeps going on about wanting to go camping again, which is what it's all about, isn't it? And we weren't comfortable all night at all, but he loved the adventure of it. He loved having to climb inside my sleeping bag at about 2 o'clock in the morning. It was great. Hi from Edders, James and Laura in East Yorkshire. Morning from Sarah and Edith. Hi guys. Jordan in Aberdeenshire. Sunny, hello. Amber and Paul, aged 8. Hi guys. Thank you for tuning in. Damon, right, okay, I'm gonna crack on with the lesson. Do my wellies smell of wee was the last question I just saw there. Well, they did. My little boy, who's 3 years old, has started weeing in our wellies. I suppose they are quite a convenient urinal height for a 3-year-old. But he obviously saw the fact that I was quite amused by it the first time, and he just thought it was a brilliant joke from now on. And I've really got to try and stop him weeing in my wellies. We've had lots of advice about putting your wellies on a rack, which you've got 2 prongs, and the welly goes upside down, which is all well and good, but the bottom of your wellies are always muddy, and I don't want to have the muddy side up. The muddy side, surely. Anyway, this is, again, a middle-class problem. However, we have to bleach the wellies every time he does it so that they don't stink. Otherwise, you've just put them in the airing cupboard, then they absolutely stink. Today, why have I got a trip hazard of a piece of string above my head? Because this is a little bit of preparation for the shelter which I'm going to make out of a dustbin liner, and this is a really simple survival hack, but again, why are we doing this? Because it's teaching various things. It's teaching a couple of knots. We're going to be teaching the clove hitch and the round turn and 2 half hitches, which Stephen went through in his bow making lesson last week. It's also teaching thinking outside the box. It's also, I think, quite a practical thing that you can go out and have fun doing, and you can make a den yourself, which is ace, isn't it? Who doesn't like making dens? Immediately you might think, I don't know, a dustbin liner like that, probably best to cut some holes and cut a head hole and put it on, as you know, it would be better keeping me dry if I'm wearing it. Now, I would totally disagree with this. I think every time I have tried to sleep in something which is plastic, actually in it, I've become wetter from my own sweat than I would have done from the rain anyway. And I think that is the big reason why you don't really want plastic anywhere near your body. You want air to be able to pass, even if it's cold air. And this is just keeping you dry. So we're going to make essentially like a basher, which is going to go over your head. Essentially, a basher is the military term. A tarpauling, I suppose, is a universal term. So, which way are we going to cut it? I suppose you might well think, I'm quite a tall human being, I'm going to cut there and hinge it that way. Well, I'm not. I'm going to hinge it this way because I don't want a really long thin bit, which I'm then going to struggle to keep myself dry underneath. I want quite a fat chunky bit, so that's actually going to be the width of it, and it's going to be twice that length. So if you are under the age of maybe say 14, make sure that you've got an adult to supervise you with cutting this open, but we're going to cut down the long side and then we're going to cut across the bottom. Okay, so we're going to leave one long side connected. That's really important. So try and do it as neatly as possible. A pair of scissors is safer. I'm using a knife just out of convenience. and if you're old enough not to be supervised, then cool. If you are asking your mum to help you, do not worry. There are fun bits to continue with after this that you can get involved with if you're not doing the actual cutting yourself. So we're cutting down the long side. Keeping control of the knife at all times. Okay, and then we've got a cut across the bottom. Now it's a funny thing cutting materials like this because they've got a sort of pleat at the bottom of them. A lot of bin liners, but you don't need to be absolutely perfectly precise about this, but you do want to maximise all of the material that you've got. You can see by pleat, I mean, look, there's this little fold here and you go, what is that doing? So we're just going to open that up, and then there's another reverse pleat here, and again, do it with my teeth, that's fine. So then you have a piece of plastic which is usable. You can see how if we'd hinged it at the bottom, it would be too long and too thin. It would probably obviously be about the right length, but it would be too thin to be workable. Now, if you stumble across plastic in the wild, or you're doing this for yourself, if you just attach string onto the plastic, it's just going to tear. There isn't the strength in this sort of plastic to be able to retain if you just literally tie it on like this, which is why we need the pebbles, and that will become clear in a minute. What I want you to do is get 4 3-meter lengths of string, okay? And if you're an adult, chances are from the nose to the tip of your fingers is 1 meter, okay? If you're a child, work out how long your arm span is compared to your parents' tip of their nose to their finger, and then you know how long a meter is. Okay, so it doesn't have to be exact again, but we're going to make 4 equal pieces of string, and these are going to go on the corners of our improvised shelter. That's 1, and we want them to be 3 meters each, okay? So 1, 2, 3, roughly. Chop that one off. So I've done 2. Can I read out comments? Why did you miss the live yesterday? That's a good question. So we started off by doing the lives every single weekday, but as I rather flippantly said, and look, I've got a lot of time for Joe Wicks, but it's not like we're doing the same thing with the same lesson every day. There's quite a lot of preparation that goes into materials collection. For example, when Stephen was making a bow and arrow, he's got to go out and get all of that stuff, and it was just quite a big commitment. We've both got kids, and we've both got jobs and careers that we're still trying to manage. So this takes a good half day up, and so we thought 3 days a week was what we could manage feasibly while still maintaining all of the other things in life, like 5-month-old twins and 3-year-olds and work and all of that stuff. So I hope you don't mind, but yeah, we were just Monday, Wednesday and Friday from now on. And we'll just go as long as we can, I think, on that basis. Right, then is the interesting bits. You've got your 4 3-meter bits of string. Now we're going to have to learn a knot in order to be doing the next bit, but the pertinent thing is you're going to get a little stone, and your pebble ideally wants to be as round as possible, right? Really flat or jagged stones aren't as good because they'll puncture the material. So the stones want to be as round as possible, and you're going to put them into the plastic like this so that you've got a little protrusion, and it's completely covered by plastic the whole way around, okay? You're then going to do a clove hitch. Now if you know how to do a clove hitch, just put a clove hitch over your pebble and do that on all 4 corners. If you don't, this is the way I taught it. So you're going to cross over the string to make a little ear, a little bunny ear basically. You're then going to cross over the string again to make a second bunny ear, all right? You're going to put the first one behind the second one, and you're going to put all of that over your pebble. You're then going to pull on both ends, and that is a clove hitch, okay? I'm going to be doing this 4 times, so I'll run over that each time I do it, and then we're moving on to the next corner. So each corner is having a guy rope attached to it, basically. But unless you know this little hack, it's almost impossible to turn this into a shelter. Unless you do, and you don't have to use stones, you could use whatever you've got. You could, as long as it's not sharp really, but I'm just thinking what I've got around here. You could use this little camera battery because it's small and it's got smooth edges. But putting these in, creating a lot more surface area, which the tension is going to be on evenly, is the trick here. So again, 1 rabbit ear, 2 rabbit ears. So if you can see those there, they're like that. And then you put the first one behind the second one behind the first one, and pull it over the top of your little pebble and pull tight. If it's difficult to see this far away, then please, by all means, Google a video on making a clove hitch, and there's lots of different ways of tying a clove hitch. Well, there's a couple of different ways, but this is the most simple for this scenario. So again, I'm getting my little pebble, putting it into the corner, pushing it up and through, 1 bunny ear, 2 bunny ear, second one behind the first one, pop it over the top, pull both ends, and it tightens. This is probably one of the most used, one of the knots that I use the most. It works with vines as well as with string, and because it doesn't have any sharp angles. The string doesn't have to go back on itself. It's just going round, and so it works really well with vines. And if you're doing this outside and you don't have any string, and you've just come across a bit of plastic in the wild, and you're actually doing this for real, you could do this with brambles. If you think about brambles, they're long and they stick to your feet as you're walking through them. Let's give my knees a little bit of a rest so I don't get dead legs again. You can do it with brambles. Even if you've got a tarpaulin, like a proper set, and your guy rope snaps, using brambles is sometimes a really good idea. And again, I'd use this method. I'd put a stone, bunch it all up, and then make my 2 little bunny ears just the same with the brambles. And if you've got a knife, you could take the thorns off the brambles and then pop it over the stone. And then you've got a tarpaulin. Just to do something else while my legs are recovering. So we're going to put this up at the moment, and the way we're going to put it up is going to be over a single line here. Now you could make at the 2 apex ends of this shelter. You imagine a house roof which has got 2 walls like that. That's what it's going to look like. At the 2 apex ends, the top of the gable ends, I suppose, you could just attach strings with stones and pull. But the problem with that is you're then putting quite a lot of tension through the main body of the material. But if you put a fixed apex line in like this, and all I've done is got a long piece of string, tied it across the room, tied it to these bars behind me, and then tied it to a kettlebell, which are really useful things to tie to because they're heavy enough not to move anywhere, and you might well have kettlebells lying around. But that's going to go in first. So obviously in the wild, this is going to be between probably 2 trees or a fence post or something like that. But something that's not gonna pull down. Again, you might think, oh, this is all for kids. You wouldn't ever sleep under one of these. It's a little bit too Billy Basics for me. While I was walking the Amazon, we had guides who would come and walk with us who didn't have anything. So they had nothing on their backs at all, right? One guy, Bernard, he was called. The only thing he bought a little knapsack. The only thing he bought, because he would drink straight out of the river in his hands, was a tablecloth, and it was a plastic tablecloth, the sort of thing that everyone used to have in the 1980s to protect mum's posh table. And the tablecloth was only just bigger than him. It wasn't much bigger than this. And again, every night he found stones and he found vines, and he put his lines on, and he made his apex again using vines, and he slept under that, and he slept comfortably on the floor. He'd put some leaves down on the floor so that he wasn't on the direct earth, and that's how he slept. And he walked with me for about 3 weeks, and just using that method. Now, how freeing is that? All he's got is a machete, a little knapsack, with a tablecloth in it, because he wants to stay dry. Now, there were guys also that I walked with for less time who would just make their shelter out of leaves each night. But you know, it is all stuff that is practical, and we wouldn't be doing it otherwise. So you've then got your 4 pieces attached to your plastic, and you're just going to pop it straight over your line like this. Now, again, this isn't rocket science, and if you've put up a tarpaulin before, you'll know how to do it. Make sure that the 2 sides are roughly the same height, so they come to the same level just down there, and the same at the back. And then you're going to pin these all out, but you're going to do it hopefully at about 45 degrees. So if you imagine the corner there, if you dissected it, a line straight through, or bisected it, a line straight through the middle and out. So 45 degrees out is ideal. This one's going to come out to, right, I need to show you the knot that you need in order to tie it onto the edge. Right, so if you're tying onto anything with a guy rope, I would suggest that probably the easiest first time knot is a round turn and 2 half hitches. Stephen did it with the bow making thing that we did on last, whenever it was that Stephen did that lesson. So you're going to, whatever object it is, now this could be upright, it could be horizontal like this, you go round it, you do a complete turn, and this is called a round turn and 2 half hitches. So you've got a complete turn, and it's the turn that is the friction of the rope against the surface that's actually the strength in this. And then you just do hitches. So it's not actually a knot, it's a couple of hitches. And a hitch is just the live end crosses over the dead end and then goes back through the hole. Okay? And that's it. Round turn, 2 half hitches. Do that again. Do. And then as soon as you get competent at that, you can add little bits, like you can put it on a bite so that it's easier to quick release to undo. But you go round once, so you've got a complete turn around the item. You then live end over dead end, and you're going to create a hole there. So you come up through the hole and pull tight. So that's a hitch, so that's one, and I want a second one. So again, cross the live end over this dead end, because it hasn't got an end, up through the hole, and you've got a second. So that is a round turn, 2 half hitches. You want to do that on all corners. If it wasn't clear, because I know I'm at a bit of a distance away from the camera, if it wasn't clear, then just YouTube it. There's plenty of lessons on how to tie knots. Now, the first one you tie, you don't want to pull too tight, because obviously it's not attached on the other side. So just tie this off. One, two. That will do. And I'm going to tie the other one. So the other back one's going to come over here. I'm just going to tie it to my rucksack. do. And then if the object that you're tying it to is movable, you can just move that away like that to tighten it, which is nice. I'm now going to go off camera and tie this front one. Remember, 45-degree angle. If you're doing this with me live, then Let me know how your shelter is going. Hopefully it's going well. Do, 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 do. This is a musical interlude while I'm tying a round turn 2/2 hitches. Again, if you need me to do that again or explain anything again, then please write it in the comments. And the last one I'm going to do is off around here. And you can see how we've already started to get a bit of a, you can see it looks like the roof of a house, doesn't it? And that's because it is the roof of a house, basically. It is a shelter. So, let's come underneath this, put my knife back in its holster. So, even though this is just one dustbin liner, I am now sat underneath it, and if it was hoofing it down with rain, the rain would be off to the sides, out in front, and behind me. It's big enough to sit in. And have I ever sat up in the torrential rain like this? Yes, I have. Sometimes you're just not ready in time, and you have to makeshift something that will protect you from the rain, and you have to sit. And as miserable as it might sound, you've just got to sit through the rainstorm. I've done this before, and when it's just been too cold to lie down, and there's water underneath, and I've just basically done an emergency shelter so I can sit in it. Clearly, if you are my son's age, 3 years old, you could sleep under his. Diagonal obviously gives you more length, if you are like me and you were having to use this as a scenario to actually sleep and you wanted to get some sleep, then just make more. Okay, so obviously if you've got an apex like this, you could put another bag here and another bag down there, and you build them up, and they would provide you with a nice little shelter that is long enough for you to sleep in. So it's simple stuff. We've got a clove hitch there. We've got a round turn at 2/2 hitches at each end, and we've got this nice little system of having pebbles in the corner of plastic. Now, plastic, obviously, nobody likes the spread of plastic around the world, but remember, in a survival situation, one of the reasons it's really good is because it's abundant, and because it doesn't biodegrade, you can often find it in quite good condition. But the second thing is obviously that it's impermeable. So from plastic bottles being really good for water collection to plastic sheets being really good for overhead rain protection, they are really handy things. Annoyingly, they just look really ugly. Okay, so Rinald's Buds, sorry for mispronouncing your name, says, what's your happiest day in your life, Ed? Up until this day, okay, so I'm going to take it in reverse order, which is in actually chronological order as well. The last day of walking the Amazon was phenomenal. 2.5 years of walking, and then arrived at the beach, and it wasn't just the arrival at the beach and the relief that I was right, because everyone had told me that I would die, and I was just adamant that I wouldn't die, and so I was quite relieved that I was alive. And then we got an overwhelming reception from the world's media, Associated Press, Reuters, CNN, Radio 4, all turning up to the beach and interviewing me. So it was phenomenal. We did a media evaluation of the media coverage. Had you taken out the same column inches as an advert, and it came to £25 million of coverage, which was extraordinary. So so that was the third best day of my life. Second best day of my life was marrying my wife, Laura. I think that was just, I as a bit of a retrobate in my former life, I never thought that I would have the sort of happiness of finding somebody that I completely fell in love with. And as she walked down the aisle, just looking at her and knowing it was the right thing to do, was at the time the happiest day of my life. And then now, I'm not being flippant about my twins that have arrived recently, Molly and Millie, because they're amazing too, but I think everyone can, certainly fathers, their firstborn is just the most phenomenal thing. And Ran, when he was born, I actually delivered him in a birthing pool up in the bedroom. We had to put acro props, which are these building things, in the room below and in the basement down here, in order that the birthing pool didn't fall through, because it's quite an old house. But yeah, I delivered him, and it was the most phenomenal thing. When he came to the surface and started crying, I couldn't stop blubbing. I just broke into tears, and it was the best day of my life. Can you use anything except a bin bag? Of course you can. Right. So this is we've used a bin bag here. often you might find little scraps of plastic, and again, you go, why is there plastic in the wild? But it could be an old sack that was used for a food container that's blown from a farm. It could be all sorts of things. You can obviously use natural materials, but this little session in hacks is often not pure bushcraft. So a survival hack is using stuff that's lying around, like starting a fire using a battery and some steel wool. It's stuff that you can use, everyday stuff, to actually help you survive. And often a survival scenario is not going to be purist. It's not going to be this whittling spoon scenario, which a lot of people think it would be. It's often going to be a little bit more Robinson Crusoe, a little bit more, wow, okay, these are the things I've got. I've got a water bottle, I've got a tarpaulin, you know, how am I going to use them to best effect? So it's man-made products often that get used in an ingenious way outside the box. Let's face it, the person who invented the bin bag didn't expect it to be used as a house. And yet it can be in an emergency scenario. So yeah, use whatever you like. It's all to help you think outside the box and use stuff. I'm a bigger fan of your wife, Laura, says Paru Ram. Thank you. Honesty is always good, I find. Could we do a video on how to make cordage? Yeah, but I might leave that one to Stephen, actually, because he's better at me. I make a really crude survival cordage, but he makes amazing cordage because he's the opposite to me. He's the bushcrafter. He's very patient, diligent, and has unbelievable skills, whereas I'm a little bit more rough and ready. I remember a moment when you were on an island and you said, especially I can stay here. I don't have nobody in England, no wife, no kids. Remember that? I think the no wife, no kids comment was actually when I was walking the Amazon. So you've put two memories and melded them together. But yeah, no, at the time I didn't. I think obviously you have different phases in life, and sometimes the phases where you are truly independent when you're on your own, it might not be great for having a happy family, but it's actually quite good for expeditions. Expeditions always put a toll not just on you, but on your family, because they're missing you. You're not there to provide. You're not there to do half of the housework or stuff like that, and so they do tax families. So I think it's a good opportunity while you're young and you don't have lots of bills coming out, mortgages and responsibilities. Go exploring, go doing fun stuff. I think that's my theory. Anyway, yes, I would like to know about mosquito repellents as well. Is that the biggest nuisance? I totally agree. My original walking partner Luke left after about 3 months of walking the Amazon, and mistakenly, hopefully, he took away all of the mosquito repellent. So for the next 3 months, we had no mosquito repellent walking through the Amazon, and it is pretty horrific. But if you think about it, none of the locals often have mosquito repellent, and after a while, you just build up tolerances. And I remember going from having mosquito bites all over me to eventually getting to a stage where I woke up and I looked down, and just before I got dressed, and I was like, I don't have any bites on me anymore. And again, a little bit like the local guys, I think my body had built up such a tolerance to it that I stopped reacting. That it had just given up reacting. There's no point reacting. He's not gonna stop getting bitten. He's not gonna stop exposing himself. And so even today, when I get bitten by mosquitoes, I don't get a reaction anymore, which is quite handy actually. That said, always a good idea to have a mosquito net if you can. Obviously, mosquitoes-borne diseases are very real, like malaria, and so you don't want to get those if at all possible. So, and it's just more comfortable, isn't it, if you're not getting bitten all night. So you could have a smudge fire, which is often a way, if you have a fire when you've just got stuff on it, which is like punky wood, which is making more smoke. That's often a nice way of doing it, and especially if you're on a raised platform, you could have a smudge fire, and that can often be a way of getting rid of big amounts of mosquitoes. All sorts of things you can burn, pine cones. There's lots of things that have natural mosquito repelling properties. So that's a good one. Good point. If you had to go into the wild, taking only one piece of equipment with you, what would it be? It's always going to be a knife. Just having a knife on you accelerates everything. Obviously, I've done the first 2 series of Marooned was all done without a knife. So you can do it. You can go into the wild and smash a rock, even if you don't really know how to flint knap. You can smash a rock open, get a sharp surface, and you can start using other methods rather than cutting. You can abrade, you can rub stuff on big rocks, You can find sharp rocks and smash things open on them. There are ways of thinking outside the box, but everything takes longer. I built a shelter without a machete or a knife, obviously, on Olarua, and it took 10 days to build what would have probably taken me a day if I'd had a machete. And so the materials collection just takes forever without some sort of cutting tool. So a knife or a machete would be the answer. Can Thomas have a shout out, please? Yes, hi Thomas, how you doing? Thank you for doing these videos. Thank you, I love these videos, thank you. Very happy that you make some good. Thanks Ed, from Kai. And I think that is about it. So that's been, what time are we now? 40 minutes, absolutely perfect time to stop. Hopefully you've enjoyed that. As I said, it's not just about making a shelter out of a bin bag. It's about a different mindset. It's about approaching things with a can-do attitude and going, this is what I've got to hand. Can I make it work? Can I survive? And as the Lofty Wiseman's Survival SAS Handbook says, you have to. Thanks very much, everyone. Thank you for watching. And on Friday, remember, we're not on tomorrow. We're doing Monday, Wednesday, Friday. On Friday, I'm going to be doing as in-depth a session into the bow drill as I possibly can. It's not an easy subject from start to finish to teach in half an hour, but I will do my best. I'll go through everything from the materials collection to techniques, to carving, to making it all more efficient, to making your style more efficient, and just give you as many top tips for helping you get an ember with a bow drill set as I possibly can. And a bow drill is making fire using 2 sticks and rubbing them together. So a seemingly mythical thing that you could never possibly do, but you will be able to do it, I promise. With a bit of practice, and not too much practice actually, you know, you should be able to get an ember with a bow drill if you're practicing every day in about a week, I would have thought, and you'll be able to. Some people I've seen it done on the first half an hour session. They've had a go with a good bow drill set, got an ember, smashed it out. So that's something to look forward to. 10 o'clock on Friday. I hope everyone has an amazing day, and lockdown is not getting you down too much, and that you manage to get outside at some point today, because that's the best reset for everyone. That is when I think we're all our best selves, is when we're outdoors, even if it's raining. Thanks guys. That is me checking out.